Yo guys, I've got a spark which I'm going to use to ignite the fire for a brand new video here on the channel. Now it's no secret that Skylanders absolutely dominated in the early 2010s. The games were huge and anything with the Skylanders name attached to it was guaranteed to sell like hotcakes. Unfortunately, 10 years later you can't quite say the same thing. Skylanders' popularity started to bomb with Trap Team, and it never recovered, but why might that be? Well, Skylanders always sold for greatest on the Nintendo Wii, as that was the franchise's greatest audience since it came from a casual crowd, and that same casual crowd could also be found on the Wii, hence the highest sales for that system in the first place, mind you. However, Swap Force was notoriously downgraded for the Wii version, with terrible graphics and entire chunks of the game having been removed. Plus 5-year-long loading screens halfway through each and every one of the levels to really break up the pacing and flow of each level. No doubt, because of this abysmal performance of the game, it discouraged returning casual fans from even buying Trap Team for the Wii in the first place. There was a drop between unit sales from Swap Force to Trap Team of greater than 1 million units for the Nintendo Wii versions of the games. Note that I say units, however, and when I say that, what I truly mean is starter packs. Of course, units wasn't what made Skylanders so profitable, it was the additional figurines and merchandise. But it's fair to say, the greater the starter pack sales, the greater the sales of the figurine line that came with it. So where did the Skylanders audience go if they weren't buying the games for the Wii anymore? Well, you'd think the casual audience would move on to the Wii U, as that was the Wii's successor. The problem here is that the Wii U bombed and didn't sell many units whatsoever, which raises the question, if the Wii U sold better, would Skylanders have remained more popular? Of course, losing its primary audience from the Nintendo Wii wasn't the only downfall of Skylanders. The oversaturation in the market for Toys to Life games didn't exactly help the franchise either. Now you had a choice, you could buy Skylanders, Amiibo, Disney Infinity, or LEGO Dimensions at this point, and people just started to get fed up with the costs of all these releases. The gimmick was awesome at first, but at this point in time it was just plain tiresome for most people. But if we wanted to prove that Skylanders could remain more popular if Wii U sold better, we need to look at all the numbers of the sales of each game on each system it was launched on. Spyro's Adventure sold 5.38 million units across all the systems, most of which came from the Wii, with 2.79 million units sold from that alone, the greatest of any Skylanders game. That was followed by the Xbox 360 at 0.97 million units. This meant the Xbox 360 outsold the PS3 version, despite the Xbox 360 in and of itself having sold less consoles. And this pattern continues because for every game the Xbox 360 version outsold the PlayStation 3. What this proves is that Skylanders for the same system maintained that same audience. Skylanders games from there were only going to get more popular. The total sales across units jumped from 5.38 million to 5.52 million for Giants. Then Swap Force, the best-selling Skylanders game of all time, jumped up to 6.32 million. Let's bear it in mind that by the time Swap Force released, all of the next-gen systems, including the Xbox One and PS4, had released also. Naturally, this meant sales for Swap Force and Trap Team on the PS4 and Xbox One weren't as high as the other systems, as most people hadn't yet been given the time to acquire one of those consoles yet. So the Xbox 360 360 continued to outsell them. But even in 2015, when plenty of people had gotten at least a PlayStation 4 by now, still Superchargers sold better on the Xbox 360. This shows that the main audience for Skylanders were still pretty casual, and therefore they weren't as interested in getting the next gen systems like the PlayStation 4 or Xbox One as other gaming franchises their fan bases would have been. So they naturally were just happy with the systems they already had, which more often than not was just a Wii and a Wii only. The only system which had sold more units for Superchargers than the Xbox 360 version was the Wii U, despite the fact that the Wii U had 6 times less console sales than the Xbox 360. As further proof that the Wii U and Skylanders audiences were tied together, and that those who bought one generally bought the other, is with Skylanders Giants. Giants was a launch title for the Wii U, Swap Force was a launch title for the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. The order of sales was Swap Force PS4, Giants Wii U, and then Swap Force Xbox One. Even though, once again, the Wii U didn't sell as well as the Xbox One, more people who picked up a Wii U chose to also pick up Giants for it on launch than those who picked up an Xbox One and also chose to pick up Swap Force for that same console again on launch. The ratio for Wii U owners to those who bought a copy of Skylanders on that system is by far the highest, so with these numbers, it's easy to see that there is some overlap in the audiences for Skylanders and Wii U owners. Even Imaginators sold the best on the Wii U, with 0.45 million sold for the Wii U compared to 0.43 million on the PS4, so it wasn't just the pull of guest stars on the Wii U version that helped Superchargers sell, as Imaginators didn't have any guest stars included for the Wii U version of the starter pack, and yet it still outsold the PS4 version. So let's multiply the Wii U sales to match the PS4 sales. That would multiply the Wii U console sales by 8.46. So if we take that and assume the ratio of Wii U owners to sales of Imaginators and Wii U remains the same, that would boost the sales of Imaginators Wii U from 0.45 million to 3.81 million. That would make it the greatest selling Skylanders game of all time, which leads to my answer of the question found in the title. Yes, I believe Skylanders would have remained more relevant if the Wii U sold better. It's clear Skylanders was more approachable to casual audiences, it sold the best on the Wii, even Trap Team's downgraded version on the Wii outsold the Xbox 360 with 0.95 million sales to 0.91 million sales. It shows that for audiences of certain systems would proceed to buy Skylanders consistently, but not all Wii owners upgraded to Wii U's. Those who did bought Skylanders on Wii U, so I feel like it's safe to say that the trend could have continued if the Wii U sold better, if the transition between Wii to Wii U enticed more casual players. Attachment rates in consoles are incredibly important. This is how many games sell for a particular system in comparison to how well the system itself sells. I'm taking this same logic and applying it to Skylanders here. So I want to end this video by looking into the future of the Skylanders series. Imaginators, despite being a launch title for the Nintendo Switch and therefore having less opportunity to sell as not as many people would have owned the system, still managed to sell 0.23 million units, almost as much as the Xbox One with its 0.27 million units sold, and the Switch had not nearly as many units sold on launch as the Xbox One had sold by the time of Imaginators release. The Switch also has a large casual audience backing it, but it's sold far better than the Wii U, as it currently sits at 92.84 million units sold. So if Skylanders ever was to return, I feel like a great push could be made for the units sold on the Nintendo Switch, which could help rise Skylanders back to popularity, though I believe it will never reach the same peak as what Skylanders Swap Force did. The demand for Imaginators on Switch is even pretty high, despite the PS4 port being faster on loading screens, better in graphical capabilities, and smoother on performance. People who own both consoles still tend to want to get the Switch version more. They're only put off by its price, as it's a very rare cartridge only Switch game at this point, leading to its ridiculous ridiculous triple-digit resale prices on eBay. If demand is that high for Imaginators on Switch, a game which is over 5 years old, who's to say just how popular a new Skylanders game or a Skylanders remaster could be on the Switch? Having portable versions of Spyro's Adventure with current gen graphics for the Switch would be a dream come true for fans, and plenty of people will be nostalgic, as those who played SSA when they were 10 years old will be 20 years old by now, including yours truly. And people like me, well, we have jobs and money to buy our own games with rather than a reliance on parents. So being able to recapture that audience and create a new one for children who are younger than what Spyro's Adventure even is at this point would certainly be key in helping to popularise Skylanders again. Now, with that all being said and done, this video is coming to an end, but before that happens, I first want to thank all my Blazing Knights and Scorpion Dragons whose support allow me to continue pumping out quality videos like this one. Without them, this all wouldn't be possible. Therefore, I genuinely appreciate every last one of you from the bottom of my heart. If you enjoyed this video, I have others you can watch by clicking on screen now, and you can even subscribe by pressing the button on the bottom right hand corner of the screen. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll be seeing you in the next one, but until that moment arises, peace!